Okay, my friends, we'll go on with the class. We've been um, talking about um, illusion and how it plays out. And one of the ways it plays out is communications that people claim to receive that is beyond human from the spiritual levels. Can you name something that's been communicated from what is said to be a higher level to us normal humans? Let's name a few of them.
Like all the principles that you brought down.
Okay, you could say that come from a higher source. How about actual entities, though? Communicating actual entities that are higher than us?
Like
Who's
Djwahl
done,
Khul.
who's done that? Yeah, Alice A. Bailey has done that. Has brought down a couple dozen books with millions of words about many different teachings. Who else has done this?
Well, in any great cycle, there's an avatar that comes, and there are many what they call sub-avatars that come and speak, which Alice Bailey could be considered as one. And
Yeah.
we look at history, there are many great philosophers, many great leaders in all the departments of life.
Okay.
Well, you could say Joseph Smith, and you could say the Prophet Muhammad, and you could say Moses.
And what was that organization you were with before you come on board with us?
Oh, Ramtha. That's
Yeah,
Jay-Z Knight.
yeah, Jay-Z Knight with Rampa. They,
Not
she,
Rampa, Ramtha.
yeah,
TH.
Rampa. She claims to have contacted a ancient entity that give her lots of information. Okay, who else has made contacts like this?
Esther Hicks says she talks to Abraham.
Yeah, that's another one. Okay, and who
Madame
else?
Blavatsky.
Madame Blavatsky claimed to be in contact with a spiritual hierarchy similar to Alice A. Bailey, but the difference between her and Bailey was she wrote everything in her own words, but she got a lot of contact according to her accounts, but she wrote them down in her own words. But with Alice A. Bailey, she wrote the words of an actual master. And so there's quite a bit of difference in the style and presentation there. Okay, what other set of teachings came forth from extra non-human means, so to speak?
The
A
Course
Course
in
in,
Miracles.
exactly,
Course
A
in,
Course in
Course in Miracles.
Mr. and Mrs. G.W. Ballard, there during the 30s, they wrote.
Oh yeah, they got a lot of channeling done.
They
Okay,
wrote a lot of books.
yeah, and I'll
Like
just
the teachings of the masters of the Far East, Tuesday Lob sang Rampa, the Aquarian Gospel,
yeah, the
and
Aquarian Gospel was a good one.
all the Renaissance artists during the from 1400 to 1600, ending with Shakespeare. They all of these guys, there are about 80 some of them. They were all in touch with higher impression.
Yeah, well, you know the DK or the who we call the Tibetan says that he points out the highest spiritual contact that humanity gets. He calls inspiration, and you know there was a lot of inspiration during the Renaissance, where just people felt inspired to do things.
Yeah.
And so he puts inspiration right up there. Now, normally with us, we think if some angel came down and told us something, that would be a really big deal, but you would think that'd be higher up than inspiration. But he classifies inspiration as being a very high event. And maybe it's because a lot of what people call inspiration is not inspiration at all. He's probably putting inspiration as kind of penetrating the veils and bringing true divine ideas down to the earth. That's what whereas what a regular person calls inspiration is just putting two and two together to equal four kind of
Well,
thing.
he defines inspiration, and I think it's externalization of the hierarchy when he's talking about overshadowing, and he talks about the different levels of overshadowing, and the ultimate level of overshadowing is similar to how you described divine possession. So that's actually how he defines inspiration.
Oh, really?
Is divine possession. I'll look it up.
Well, look at the word inspire. Spire, a spire like the top of a cathedral. You've got a spire. You're penetrating into higher consciousness from within. Inspire. Think about it.
Yeah. Okay, then we have Mark and Elizabeth Clare Prophet started the Summit Lighthouse, also a church called Church Universal Triumphant. They come up, they claim to be, especially her husband died early, but she continued the work and put out a lot of books.
Yeah, she took the work. She took the work of the Ballards and sort of.
Yeah, she kind of continued that. And a number of people continued. The Ballards claimed to be the inherited them, but not necessarily. They didn't necessarily have a valid claim. A lot of them.
Well, what was the main message of the Ballards? I don't even.
They started the I Am movement. Now the Ben says I Am movement had distortions in it, but it did have a true teaching around the power of the consciousness of the I Am being God in us. The I Am is in us, and it had some good truths in there, and it got a lot of attention. The Ballards was really making a big splash back in, I think it was the 30s.
Yeah, 1938, 36.
Yeah, he made the mistake of saying he was going to be immortal, and then he died fairly early, and that put a big damper on the whole movement. They tried to, the true believers tried to say, well, he just ascended. when the guru dies, they say, well, he really ascended, and but anyway, it kind of diffused the movement. It continued, but lost a lot of its energy. But while Ballard was alive, it was really a big deal for a while. It was really experienced a lot of growth. But then we have the Urantia book was communicated by extra physical means. Now there's two types of communication. One is conscious and one is unconscious. And which ones are the conscious ones?
The ones when you're awake when you get them?
Yeah. Like, was Alice A. Bailey a conscious medium? Was she fully conscious when she was receiving?
Yep.
Yep. And Blavatsky, was she conscious? She was. And
Lucille Cedarcrans was conscious.
oh yeah, I forgot about her. She was conscious. And Helen Schuckman, who did Course in Miracles, she did that fully conscious. She was one of the few. And this is one of the teachings of decay. He says the masters use their communication is by mental telepathy, where the person is fully conscious. Whereas a lot of astral teachings are presented in where the person is an unconscious medium. Has anyone ever been in the presence of an unconscious medium before?
Yes.
What was
Yes.
it like? Oh, yeah, you were in the presence of Ramtha, weren't you?
Yeah, that was unconscious.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
want to tell us
Ramtha.
what was it? What was it like first time you experienced that?
Well, I wasn't a witness to the transition, so I could see uh, when Jay-Z Knight was communicating Ramtha, uh, she 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 behaved like a man. She was a man. She you could see she has another. She is another entity, and when she was herself, Jay-Z Knight, it was her personality that you saw as a woman and a totally different character.
Yeah, the first time that happened to me was somebody told me about this medium in Boise and invited me to come to a meeting. It was way back in the 70s. And the lady was, they put the lady in the center, and she was not a very intelligent person. Her husband kind of handled everything, and he seemed a lot more intelligent than her. But anyway, he put her in this trance. And then all of a sudden, she spoke with a different voice and identified himself as Confucius, apparently the Confucius of history, according to what everybody there believed. And he was definitely a lot more intelligent than she was. But I questioned him about a couple things, and he seemed fairly intelligent, but not any more intelligent than an intelligent person here on the planet. But everybody wanted to know about things about their personal life, who they should marry or what kind of job they should take, and that type of stuff. So he was spent his time answering questions I considered quite trivial, except for my questions. I asked him about karma and different things, but he I wasn't really satisfied with his answers. But everybody there was really enamored with him, and it was like the voice of God speaking to the group that was there. But I was introduced to the fact that these unconscious mediums are taken over by a presence that definitely is different than their own personalities, and definitely just not made up by them, because this gal wasn't intelligent enough to make up that entity that overshadowed her. But
Well, I can tell you that I had quite a bit of experience from 1969 to about 1974 with a medium that it was a medium rare, so to speak.
Or a rare medium.
Well, basically, people who'd written books that we know of actually came through him, and we asked questions about those books. And I would say to you that anything that we've heard here in this group or any other teachings of Alice Bailey were shared to us through that particular source, and that we didn't get involved in any kind of personal. What kind of a lettuce should I buy, or what woman should I marry? Well, that wasn't what it was about. It was about actual teachings. People had written books like James Henry Breasted, who'd written a book called The History of Egypt, came through and spoke to us about Egypt and the 18th dynasty and Hatshepsut.
did they say how the pyramids were made?
Well, we didn't ask that question.
Yeah, Yeah, that's a big mystery. But DK points out that the hierarchy uses conscious mediums. And with unconscious mediums, you're going to get maybe some truth and some error. But the conscious mediums that we know about, people that received in full consciousness, were Alice A. Bailey, Blavatsky. The Course in Miracles was received this way. And Joseph Smith received his revelations in full consciousness. And the Aquarian Gospel was received in full consciousness. And these books, these teachings that were received in full consciousness, or most of them are fairly high quality. Now, that if a medium receives in full consciousness, it doesn't mean that everything they have is true. You have to run everything by your soul, because a deceptive person can claim to receive in full consciousness just like a sincere servant. Now, those that are received, popular ones that are received as through unconscious mediums, are like the raw material, the Law of One, Seth. Those are two that were received by unconscious. Oh, also Edgar Cayce.
Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet.
They were received in unconsciousness, but they're still pretty high quality. We have some pretty interesting information. And the Urantia book was pretty detailed. A lot of flaws in it, I think, but it's still a sign of a pretty high intelligence revealed it. Mark and Elizabeth Clare Prophet. I think a lot of stuff she got by studying the works of Alice A. Bailey and putting them in her own words, because a lot of this information she gave out was information that was from the Bailey works, but she hardly ever mentioned. I don't remember her even ever mentioning Bailey. She did bring up the name Djwahl Khul once in a while, but
my experience with one time I listened to her give a lecture with that was just not the kind of quality that I'd been experiencing coming through the when
yeah, it's
actually
not.
Alice Bailey and Madame Blavatsky actually spoke through the medium who is what you call an unconscious medium. And their words were words that I knew to be true because I'd read and I'd been
Yeah, you just didn't get the light through Elizabeth Clare Prophet. A lot of the volume was she put out a lot of information, but it wasn't new. It was kind of like things that are already out there that she kind of put in her own words. But anyway, we're talking about illusion, and the interesting part about this is there's illusion connected with almost all of these to some degree, because many of these teachings, even the higher ones, don't agree 100% with each other. Even between Bailey and Blavatsky, both in pretty good harmony with each other. There's some disagreements with the revelations they received, and so there's differences. And some of the differences is just the perspective, because sometimes two people can see the same thing and describe it differently, so it sounds like they don't agree, but they saw the same thing. They're describing the same thing. But then there are pretty hardcore differences. Blavatsky thought the life of Christ was written as a kind of a parable, And Bailey talks about the life of Christ like it's pretty much happened as it's written in the Bible, and makes references to a number of things in the Bible as being accurate as portraying the life of Christ, and even wrote a book about the reappearance of the Christ, that he will actually come back and work among humanity again.
Well, I've noticed in the Bailey books that there are those occasions when it's Alice speaking.
Yeah, I don't get that very often, but it's always possible. Now, this is one of the problems she had when she was when they had this group. They started out with what, 50 some members or something in an inner group. And one of the conflicts that was created was when he gave specific instructions and told some of the participants, you need to do this, or you need to make a correction here. And they didn't like what they said. They said, well, that was Bailey speaking, not Khul.
But when you actually read the words, you can tell when the consciousness shifts sometimes.
Yeah. I'd be interested in if you could come up with a specific example of that. But I think it's pretty consistent overall. She said that he would approve everything before she actually published it. So even if it was her own words at times, was her own words that he apparently agreed with.
Another example is General Jadasa, who wrote the first principles of Theosophy. He said that it said that he put his manuscript in the temple, and the masters reviewed it and marked in red the changes that they wanted.
Who is this?
General Jadasa, who wrote the first principles of Theosophy.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting. Haven't heard that one before.
How about the Awaspa book? Did you ever read that?
I read a little bit of it. I have a copy, but it didn't really grab my interest that much. Anybody here read that one?
Well, my mother bought the book years ago and read it. I have it, and I started reading it. It seems to be kind of gibberish.
Yeah, that's the same with me. I started reading it, but it didn't catch my
Couldn't
attention
hold
that
your
much.
attention.
It was revealed in a really short period of time, though. That was the supposedly miracle. It's a pretty good sized book, and it was, I think, the whole thing was transmitted in just a really short period of time. And that was supposed to be the miracle of the book, but it's a little bit like the Rancher book, but a different type of history. But what's interesting about all these revelations that we get, there's differences in them all, and there's illusion in them all, and on two levels. One is that is caused by the person themselves. When they read these things, they interpret them incorrectly, so they're subject to illusion caused by their own minds by reading, absorbing maybe good, true teachings, but interpreting them incorrectly. That's a source of illusion. The other source of illusion is that many of these different revelations actually disagree with each other. So how do you find out if they're true? One of the things I do in all of them, when one of them is presented and somebody says, hey, read this is really good, the first thing I look for to figure out if if it's really on the right track, I look for one thing in particular. Can anyone guess what that is?
Yeah, if it's new, if it's new inspiration, revelation,
Okay,
information.
well, that's good. Yeah, if we have new stuff that registers with the soul, that is really important. Anything else? That's one thing.
If it stimulates your consciousness.
Does it resonate with your soul?
Yeah. It has to stimulate you in a certain way.
Almost all these books that are not directly from the hierarchy make one major mistake. They make predictions. And the ones that are not from the hierarchy, they all make predictions that do not come true.
Well, I can tell you one example. At the end of each year, our major teacher for the spirit, Dr. Frost, he said he would like to give us a few predictions. In 1972, he predicted it would be the first time in history that the Pope would resign, but I got it wrong. It was the president that resigned.
Yeah. Okay.
Somebody resigned
But the
anyway.
Pope did resign later.
Yeah, we did have a resignation later.
So,
Okay.
when spirit looks through the future isn't, it's not the same as what we see. It's very nebulous and there's no time involved.
Okay. The most profound teachers are very hesitant to make specific prophecies because of the future is fluid. So making specific detailed prophecies is they're hesitant to do. DK has made a number of prophecies that did come true, like he predicted very clearly the development of atomic energy and different things. He made a couple that didn't come true, indicating that even though his teachings are very high quality, that making predictions is quite difficult. I'd say if a teacher makes 60% or more of his predictions come true, well, that's a sign that he's on the right track. But there are like when they give me the Law of One to read, or somebody did wanted me to read it, and there's about 5 books about there. They were pretty hesitant. They were asked to make predictions, and they were somewhat hesitant to do it. But then they did go ahead and make a couple of predictions. They predicted that by 2012, we would move from the 3rd density to the 4th density. Now, what the 4th density is, and those teachings, is pretty much being like us, being like masters. So, and also that we would live to be in the 4th density. People would live to be 900 or 90,000 years of age.
90,000.
Yeah. So anyway, in 2012, that did not happen. They also predicted some things around the year 2000 that didn't happen. Now, the Keys of Enoch is another one. He predicted that was given back in the 70s, and he predicted great events would happen, and we would have pretty much a return of Christ and different things around the year 2000, and that didn't happen. So that put a kind of a damper on his.
Yeah, but he sure used a lot of big words.
Yeah.
Your tetrahexahedrons and your pyramidal hedrons and all kinds of.
Yeah, that was one book that it was intelligent enough. I thought, well, maybe this is a true revelation. But then none of his predictions came true.
Well, Nostradamus predicted a lot of things that seemed to come true, but he didn't get the words exact. He predicted Hitler, but he called him Hister.
Yeah, and he wrote kind of like Isaiah. You can read Isaiah and you can think, boy, this kind of applies, but it wasn't specific and detailed. So you can read them over and see how it applies. And a lot of the really inspired writers do this. They write in kind of symbolic form that you can actually apply to the various cycles as they happen. Now, Mark and Elizabeth Prophet's outfit, they got a revelation that the end of the world was near. And so they sold everything they had in California and they moved to Montana and bought a big acreage there and started building underground shelters because they were told that there was going to be a nuclear war with Russia. And they had to have these shelters to survive. So everybody sold pretty much everything they had and just put it into building this community in Montana. And there they were waiting for the date, and then nothing happened. So that kind of put a really big damper on her organization. It didn't really prosper very much after that big debacle. But there's been quite a few people do something like that. There was another guy back in that age. He had a big church group, a couple thousand members, and he got this revelation that there was going to be the big rapture, and they were supposed to go on this mountaintop, and Christ was going to take them up into heaven. And all the members, they sold or gave away everything they had to their friends, and they went up to the mountaintop and nothing happened. And then he said, well, we got the date wrong. Let me do some recalculation. And they went up to the mountaintop another time and still nothing happened. And that by that time, the members got discouraged and his group fell apart.
But there's a guy said, I don't predict anything, especially the future.
Yeah, right. So anyway, now the smart ones like Seth speaks, it's not as profound as the Bailey books by any means, but there's a lot of truth in Seth speaks. And I think he was an entity from the other side. I got the entity was like a college professor on the other side type of thing when I read the Seth material. And he said a lot of things were true, and he was smart enough not to make specific predictions. I don't remember him making any specific predictions, but everybody that did. Now, Ramtha did the same thing. Ramtha talked about big changes that were supposed to occur around the year 2000, and they didn't happen. Now, you were a member of that. Do you remember any predictions that Ramtha made? That's all.
Well, I remember there were predictions, but when something ceases to be important in my mind, I forget it. So I forgot all about it. I do remember there were predictions, but I cleaned my memory for more important stuff.
Yeah, if I remember right, he predicted the big earthquake would happen in California, and he predicted big changes around the year 2000. A lot of these channelers were predicting big changes around the year 2000, and then big changes around the year 2012. And in both instances, nothing happened. And I'm one of the few teachers out there that predicted that the year 2000 and 2012, nothing much would happen.
Well, I said the same thing. People would ask me what I thought about it. I said that there won't be anything that you'll notice.
Yeah. Yeah, I said back in 2007, in a lecture I gave that's recorded that if you look at 2011, 2012, and 2013, you won't be able to tell the difference between those years about being significant. And you look back, well, you know, that's pretty much true right now.
Well, same with Y2K. Not much happened. There was no computer collapse or technology collapse or anything.
Yeah, and I said that about Y2K too, and I was really criticized by a couple of people in the group. And even after Y2K passed, some in the group was maintaining, well, we're still going to have problems. They haven't developed yet. But then, everything continued as is.
Well,
Another one that you made.
I can look from the year 1947 when we moved to California till now, and I can say that there have been some very profound changes, but you can't look at each day and see change from yesterday.
Yeah, you can't look at the changes. The changes have been
Gradual.
gradual. There hasn't been in 2012. There was not any bigger change than 2011 or 2013, but there were changes each year. And so anyway, that's one reason, one way to check out the material. The first thing I do when I get somebody saying, "Hey, this is a great revelation," I check and see if they've made predictions. Because if they made specific predictions that didn't come true, then that's definitely a sign that they were not in contact with the hierarchy to a large degree. Okay, so the biggest sign that a teacher is true is if it registers with your own soul and that they teach new principles. Because a principle, once it's understood, you have to see through the illusion that surrounds it. Like the principle of freedom that we talked about before. Everybody likes the idea of freedom, but not very many people understand what true freedom is and the principle behind it. When the person sees the true principle, then he can see beyond the illusion and he can differentiate true teachers from false teachers, true teachings from false teachings.
One thing that resonates for me, if something that I've been seeking and pondering shows up in my life, and if it teaches me principles and laws and something that resonates in my soul, then I hold on to it. Otherwise, I realize that it's just a passing fad. And in my lifetime, I've taken the time to look into a lot of these various so-called mediums. And I see that some of them are just making guessages and they're just talking about mundane things, which I don't resonate with.
Yeah, and if you go to YouTube right now, there's dozens of mediums, and they demonstrate, hey, this Zork guy is going to come take possession of my body, and he's going to say some really good things, and then they speak with a different voice, and most of it is really gibberish, just saying the same thing. Well, the typical thing they say, "Oh, my brothers and sisters, you are so full of light, and you are so full of love, and love is everywhere, and love is the answer to everything," and basic stuff like that.
Well, I'll tell you that when Alice Bailey spoke to the medium, she spoke with a very delicate female voice, and this man was 6'4", weighed about 400 pounds. But she said that these weren't my writings, but they're the writings of Master Djwahl Khul.
Yeah.
And also following her was H.P. Blavatsky briefly, with this very high-pitched Russian voice. And she gave us some advice, and she said at the end, grow, progress, with a very powerful voice, which we recognized would have been her personality.
Yeah.
Grow and progress and love and be a good boy.
Okay, my friends, go forward and don't let illusion trap your mind in the wrong direction.
Can I share a little thing?
Sure.
No.
Well, Hercules was
a big thing.
I'll make it quick.
It has to be a big thing.
Hercules was strolling along the countryside and he comes to this swamp, and in the swamp is this big, huge, giant serpent called Antaeus, which is really anti-us. But he has to slay this serpent, and the serpent represents illusion. And so he goes into the swamp and he wrestles with the serpent, and the serpent prevails, and he can't figure out why, since he's using all of his great strength and understanding, why he can't prevail over this serpent, this great big serpent Antaeus. And then it dawns on him uh, the way to conquer this serpent. He throws it up into the air, which represents the mind. And he uses logic and reason and wisdom that he's gained along the way. And in so doing, by throwing the serpent into the air, the serpent becomes subdued and he masters illusion by using not just the light of the intuition, but his own logic and reasoning that prevailed against the serpent.
Yeah. And illusion is very difficult to see because you're kind of one with the illusion if you buy into it. So you have to separate yourself and look at it as the observer. And by using the mind, you can eventually find them.
Yeah, he couldn't overcome it at the level of the illusion. He had to separate himself, like you say, and throw it up into the light of day and reason.
Okay, my friends, good points from all, and enjoy the Super Bowl today. And for those of you who are fans, and for those of you who like the commercials and the halftime, and we will see you next week.
It's all illusion.
Well, what's this illusionary game? Let's see who wins.
Yeah, but we'll enjoy the illusion while it lasts.
Yeah, if we're in the illusion, we might as well enjoy what we can.
Might as well.
Join the mind-rotting Maya.
Yeah. Okay, see you soon.